So go ahead and start when you are ready.
Okay. Hi, welcome to Summertime is Reading Time in the Diamond. My name is Jose Cruz. I'm the CEO for the San Diego Council on Literacy. This organization, the one I work for, works to support reading throughout San Diego. I'm also a musician, and I'm very excited to be reading to you during this summer campaign's Week of Music. And I have this book that I'm going to be reading to you. This is a book about a man who actually kind of invented the electric guitar. And I also play guitar. Did I say that already? And I write songs and all. So I'm not going to be doing that right now, but I'm going to read a book called Guitar Genius. And this is with the permission of the publisher Chronicle Books. It's written by Kim Tomsick and illustrated by Brett Helquist. And I hope you'll enjoy this story. And so here's the cover of it, Guitar Genius by Kim Tomsick. I get that right. And this is how Les Paul engineered the solid body electric guitar and rocked the world. And so a lot of the music that you hear is actually because of Les Paul creating the electric guitar pretty much. So that's what we're going to learn about today in this story. Well, let me get to the first page. In a 3-story schoolhouse near the Fox River in Waukesha, Wisconsin, children scrambled into the music room. Tambourines shimmied, drums boomed, and bells clanged. Little Lester loved it all, the punchy pluck of banjo chords, the bright twinkle of piano keys, and the rise and fall of notes. Lester couldn't read the music sheets. Those tracks of squiggly lines and black dots didn't make sense, but it didn't matter. The fun part was all the sounds he could make. So maybe he didn't play piano real well, but he sure loved the sounds that came out of that piano. At his after-school piano lesson, his teacher sighed and pinned a note to his shirt. He skipped all the way home. "What does it say?" he asked, grinning from freckle to freckle. "Well," Lester's mother said gently, "it says you'll never be musical." Lester's shoulders sank. His eyes stung. "Don't listen to her." His mother tore the paper into tiny pieces. "You are going to be great." "Really?" "You can do anything you put your mind to." Lester thought about that. You can see the note is being torn up. He did a lot of thinking. One day, while he was stuffing newspapers for his paper route, his buddy Harry showed up wrapping wire around an empty oatmeal can. Wrapping wire around. I'm going to have to show you a photo of that. "What are you doing, Harry?" "I'm building a crystal radio set." Well, that was interesting. So Lester gathered bits and parts and built his own crystal kit. Then he wired it right to the bed springs in his mattress for an antenna. Out from his home-built radio floated the warm drawl of guitar strings. Wowza! And here's a picture of what was taking place. This is the coil wrapped around and such. And you can see there's a little cord that's on the metal of his bed. There's a tuner, an oatmeal can, an antenna, and telephone earpiece. So something that could make sounds that you could hear. This is the beginning of something special. Lester saved his paper route earnings until he had enough to order his very own guitar. As Lester opened the box, his finger hit one of the guitar strings. "You already sound great, Lester," his mother said. He didn't. Lester fumbled through the chords. His fingers floundered over the fretboard. He even blundered through the B notes. His hands weren't big enough to reach all 6 strings, so he removed one, and then he practiced and practiced until, hey, look at all the books. Until what? Until he could play the guitar, the banjo, and even the harmonica. He sounded so slick that the manager of WTMJ invited him to play on the radio. "Mister," his mother said, "you don't know how good that sounds." I wish you could hear it like we do when you play on the radio. So his mother, well, there's Lester, and there's his mother listening to him play on the radio. So that's him in the radio station. And it must have sounded really good. Lester wished that too, but he didn't own a recording device. It was the 1920s. Nobody he knew owned that sort of gadget. But that was okay. If he didn't have a recording device, he'd build one. He scrutinized the family's newfangled gizmos, tinkering in his mother's living room and his father's garage, and then he took everything apart. Things like the phonograph, the player piano, the telephone, and the radio. "Ma," his big brother hollered, "the kid's at it again." "Leave him alone, Ralph," his mother said. "He's just trying to learn." So he's trying to figure out a way to make sounds with the music that nobody else has ever figured out how to do before. You can see all the things he's taken apart in the house. I can't wait to see how this ends. With a Cadillac flywheel, a dentist belt, a nail, and other pieces and parts, he built a recording lathe so he could record his music. Oh, that's right, he's recording. He made recordings of his guitar strumming and harmonica humming, and then he played them back to figure out how to make it sound better. Soon he could whip out all sorts of knee-slapping hillbilly melodies. Everybody said he was super. And you can tell he's grown up too, huh? Flywheel, dentist, belt. There's things here. I know what a nail is, but a lot of this I don't know what it is. But he did, and it's a good thing for us. But Lester wanted to be even better. He wanted to play both sides of his harmonica while he plucked his guitar. "You only have two arms, you goofus," Ralph said. "You can't flip a harmonica and play a guitar at the same time. Everybody knows that's impossible." But Lester thought it was possible. So when Ralph left for work at the neighborhood dry cleaning store, Lester picked up a coat hanger left lying around the house. He fitted the hanger over his shoulders and shaped the other ends to fit the harmonica, so he could flip the instrument with his chin and play twice as many sounds. Hot dog! It worked. He could hum and strum at the same time. So there he is. Both of his hands are working the guitar, but he figured out how to hook up the harmonica so he could play it while he played guitar. I can do this. That's one of the things I can do. At 13 years old, Lester called himself Red Hot Red. He landed local gigs by playing his guitar harmonica act and telling funny stories. He performed for tips at nearby movie theaters, clubs, and drive-ins. Folks who sat up front loved the act, but people in the back complained, "We can't hear you, Red. Nobody in the back can hear you play." Lester wanted his music heard up front, in back, and in the way back. His tips depended on it. So you can see the people in the front are enjoying the music, but the people in the back can't hear. Well, he wasn't going to have that. He thought and thought until a solution struck him. He could make it louder. All he had to do was borrow a few things from home: a cinder block, a broomstick, a telephone, and a radio. He stuffed the broom handle into the cinder block and mounted the telephone's mouthpiece to the top of the broom handle. There, a microphone stand. Then he wired it to the radio to create the speaker for his sound. Lester sang and played his harmonica into the homemade mic. Sure enough, the tune boomed from the speaker. Wow, these are just things laying around the house. But he knew how to hook up wires and such, and he just believed he could do it. Hooray! Folks in the front could hear, folks in the back could hear, but a heckler in the way, way back sent a note to Lester. It read, "Red, your voice is fine, your harmonica is fine, and your jokes are funny, but the guitar is not loud enough." That looks like a drive-thru. Beekman's Famous Barbecue. Okay, well, not hearing the guitar. What's he going to do about that? Lester rummaged through the garage until a brilliant idea zipped to mind to take the tone arm off his father's phonograph player and jam the arm with the needle into the top of the guitar. He taped everything in place and wired it to his dad's radio. "Geez," Ralph said, staring at the ruined phonograph. "What did you do that for? If it plays a phonograph record, it must play a guitar, right?" They both vibrate. He snatched up the contraption and headed back to Beekman's barbecue to test it in front of a crowd. It worked. Harmonica sounds floated from one radio speaker, bazooey, buzzleball. Guitar strumming amplified from the other radio speaker. Strum twang, strum twang. Everyone could hear it. It was a smashing success. The problem was, it wasn't just the strings vibrating. The hollow space in the middle of the guitar vibrated too, making the speaker echo and screech. So this part of the guitar is a little bit of a problem, and I think he's going to fix it. Lester knew he could play cleaner tones if he could just stop the guitar from vibrating. How though? It bamboozled him. He tried stuffing the hollow centers with rags, socks, and a tablecloth. Nope. Next, he filled it with plaster of Paris. That was a bust, and a ruined guitar. Lester had one more idea. He borrowed a wagon and convinced 4 friends to trek down a steep riverbank to the railroad tracks to help him. Then he found a 2.5-foot piece of discarded steel rail. And there it is. These are some railroad track pieces. And those are his friends. Is that him up there? Okay. My cover's falling apart. There we go. Back at home, he attached the guitar string to the rail and placed a telephone microphone under the string to pick up the sound vibrations. I'm going to move that. "Now what are you doing?" Ralph asked. "There's only one way to do this," Lester said. "Still as dense and free of the vibrations I don't want." He gave his steel guitar a strum. Wah, wah, wah. Bow, chicka, bow, wow. "Yowzer," Ralph said. But his mom, who usually thought Lester was the cat's meow, shook her head and frowned. "That'll be the day when you see a cowboy sitting on a horse playing a railroad track. All the cowboys in the movies and traveling shows played guitars." Shucks, guitars and cowboys went together like peanut butter and jelly. If a cowboy wouldn't like this idea, then nobody would. Rats. But Lester pushed on. Because it's different. Something different. He tweaked and tinkered until he found a way to amplify his acoustic guitar without echo and feedback. Twang! It sounded okay, good even, but it wasn't the rich sound he heard the steel rail play. He continued practicing, and when he turned 17, his mom let him take his act on the road. Rhubarb Red. At 19 years old, he shortened his name from Lester Polfus to Les Paul, and that's why we know him today. He's Les Paul. We know about the Les Paul guitars. A few years after that, he formed a band called the Les Paul Trio. He played hillbilly music in the daytime as Rhubarb Red, and later learned blues and jazz at night as the Wizard of Waukesha. He swapped licks on his guitar in Chicago and then in New York beside some of the greatest musicians of all the time. Yeah. The new style of music got Les's mind thinking again. He loved the variety of sounds, the vibrato of clarinets, the badoom-sh of drums, the blurp of horns, but the twang of his guitar still wasn't loud enough. So here's some of the musicians that he played with. We know Louis Armstrong, there's Charlie Christian, Art Tatum, Bing Crosby's a singer, Nat King Cole, and Coleman Hawkins, and the Les Paul Trio. So they all played together sometime in history. By the time Les turned 24, he'd become a hotsy-totsy musician. Even President Franklin D. Roosevelt loved his tunes when Les and his razzmatazz jazz trio performed at the White House. Still, Les dreamed of the sound of that iron rail. How could he make an electric guitar that held a note like that? The question prickled and pestered in his mind until 1941, when he was 26 years old. He didn't have equipment or a workshop, nothing. But he was red hot red, rhubarb red, the wizard of Waukesha. He could do anything he set his mind to. And that's what his mother told him, right, when he got that note from his teacher a long time ago. The night watchman at the Epiphone Guitar Factory let him in on Sundays. There he took a 4x4 piece of solid pine, hooked on an Epiphone neck, his own homemade pickups and guitar strings. His solid body electric guitar looked like a log with strings on it, so he called it the log. And when he gave it a strum, wah wah wah, bow chicka bow, moo woo, hot dog, he said, it was the best thing he'd ever heard. So this is the 4x4. This is what they still call the neck of the guitar. And then the tail piece, not sure where that goes, probably around there. And pickups and strings. I think he's getting close. He took it to a swanky nightclub to show off his new sound. But when he played the log in front of a crowd, they didn't applaud. They didn't boo. Folks just looked at one another. What is that thing? Huh? How could the audience not hear what he heard? But Les's shoulders didn't sink. His eyes didn't get stingy. He did not give up. Maybe the audience hears with his eyes. Les returned to the Epiphone factory and told the watchman, everyone's confused. They don't know it's a guitar. Oh, okay. Oh, see, because it looks like a log. So he's going to make it look like a guitar. There, Les said. Now it looks more like a guitar. And the people liked it. But it wasn't a regular guitar. It was a solid body electric guitar. Wah, 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 bow, chicka, bow, wow. It purred, it hummed, it twanged in all the right ways. Finally, the sound he dreamed of had come alive. The crowd went wild. No matter what anyone told Les, he never stopped working on all kinds of sounds. His hard work earned him a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Grammy Hall of Fame, and many other halls of fame. He also received the Trustees Award from the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. At 89, now he's 89 years old, Les Paul was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. When he walked on stage to receive his award, noise erupted and boomed from the crowd. Clappity clap clap, roar, huzzah, hurrah, hooray. And there's a photo, hot dog, the Les Paul guitar. And there's just some notes about the author. But I hope you enjoyed this book. It's a true story about the electric guitar. And it's a true story about a young person who had ideas and he worked to make them happen. So it's called Guitar Genius. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story. I want to thank you for joining us. And please don't forget to record all of the Read-Aloud books you listen to in your summer reading log, okay? So you can win prizes from the library. And let me see what else, if there's anything else I need to tell you. No, I'm just so glad that I had the opportunity to read to you this fun book. And I hope that you'll read it too and read other books. And that's it. I'm signing off, and I want to thank the folks from the Diamond Education Excellence Partnership for inviting me to read to you. Enjoy.